Gary Wisch. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for DeLong's Incorporated. I actually started here at DeLong's the day after I graduated high school. My dad had been with the company, he worked most of his career here, and so it was an easy step into the engineering field to come and work in our drafting department in the summers during college. When I graduated from college, it happened to be that the country was in a pretty deep recession. I only had one other opportunity out of college, and because I knew what I was getting into here, it just made sense to stay. So this is the only place where I have ever worked. I'm in a second floor office that's about 30 or 40 feet away from where I started, and I've moved a few feet down the hall, and that's really about it. My first title coming out of school was called research engineer, and they called me that because we were rather, and still are, a rather small fabricator, and had a couple of engineers, but they were older and weren't technologically savvy. And so I was the first person to write computer programs to do some of our design work and to automate some of our shop drawing work. And so that's what I did for about the first 7 years. And then I became the chief engineer, vice president of engineering. And so now I have done that for about 31 or 32 years, something like that. It's been a good career, but if you're looking for somebody with all kinds of different things they've done, I know a little bit about steel fabrication and nothing about anything else. Even as a young child, I was interested in building things. And part of that, because I followed in my dad's footsteps, his idea of a weekend trip was going to see a job site someplace. I liked that. In fact, one of my sons is involved in heavy construction now, and that's at least partly because I drug him around to job sites all through the formative years. As a young person, I was much more gifted mathematically than in any other skill, and that leads one into an engineering field. And I watched my dad spread bridge blueprints out on the dining room table after dinner way more days than not. I'm glad I made the decisions that I did, and glad that I ended up where I ended up. One of the things that I'm most proud of, most firms in our industry subcontract out their shop drawing work, and we have been able to maintain our own force, and I supervise those 8 people directly, and we have managed to keep a good department and to keep all that work in-house for my entire career here, and really in the engineering department started in our company in 1954, so however many years that is, and we've always done 100% of our shop drawing work in-house. When my dad was the chief engineer, and now in the 30 plus years when I have been. So that might be more than anything else what I think is important. At the time, we were maybe a 500 ton a month shop, and now we are more than double that. So, I haven't just carried on what he did, and those were big shoes to fill anyway, but we as a company have more than doubled in size tonnage-wise, and maybe in terms of dollars, we maybe have quadrupled in size. I know that inflation plays a role in that, but we're a bigger and more successful company. When I was new to the company, one of my roles was prepare for our annual AISC audit where we went through the certification process. I learned real early on how important documentation was, and having written procedures. And we grew from a company that was a really small welding shop. We didn't, before we joined the AISC, we didn't really even have a quality program. The production guys were responsible for doing good work, and if they said they did, we shipped it out the door. And now we've got certified welding inspectors, and we've got paint inspectors, and we would never have learned all that were it not for AISC. So we look to the AISC and NSBA for technical advice all the time. We're located midway between St. Louis and Kansas City, and there are no, it's not like we have a group of fabricators in our region where we can get together and share tips and ideas. We're just not in a spot to be able to do that. So we look to the AISC for that kind of thing a lot. We just did have several of us attend the virtual NASCC, and I'm glad we got to do that. I really hope that by next year they're able to be back in person, because we learned so much on the exhibit floor and in the workshops. And so I think that we're probably a typical member of AISC in that we're good at what we do, but we still need a lot of help. We need an organization that represents us and is there to teach us and train us and show us new things in the industry. As a younger person, when I'd get called out to a site, usually I don't get called out to a site unless something goes wrong. Because if everything's going like it should, why do you need the fabricator to show up? You ship the steel, you put it up, and everything's fine. So I get called when something goes wrong. And when I was younger and in this position, I dreaded those trips because, oh my God, what did we screw up? Who's going to yell and scream and curse at me all afternoon? But I like taking things that aren't working and helping figure out how to make them work. And I can't do that in any other field. My wife is a registered nurse and she works in obstetrics. I would pass out and fall over if I saw a baby being born, and she just knows what to do. And I know about putting steel buildings and bridges together. It's the only thing I'm good at. I tell you what, I have been really involved in the NSBA and AASHTO collaboration, and I'm involved in the ARIMA in the railroad committee that deals with steel structures, and I really like doing that kind of stuff. I can see if I could write my perfect retirement ticket, I wouldn't go from working more than full-time like I do now to nothing. I would kind of wind down, and I would like to retain some involvement in the industry, because I feel like I have enough experience now that to be able to pass some of that on to the next generation would be helpful to them. And two, I really don't want to give up the contacts and the friendships I've made with all the people over the years. So I'd like to be able to gradually back out of that instead of having to do it cold turkey. There is a next stage of my life somewhere after the steel fabrication business, but I'm not ready for that yet.